Today we are going to see how some animals can run on water. It sounds impossible, but they really can. And there are several ways to achieve this, thanks to being very fast, having a light body weight, or even having special body adaptations. So let's get started. The best known animal that can run on water is perhaps the Jesus lizard. That's right. It's named after the Son of God himself because it can seemingly run on water. So what is this amazing creature? Well, it's also called the basilisk lizard, and it lives in the tropical areas of Mexico, Central America, and northern South America. And no, it doesn't lay eggs in the water. It's just good at running on it. They are relatively big lizards. On average, they grow to about 60 centimeters in length. But note that this does not include the tail, which is almost twice as long as the rest of their body. So these are quite long animals. So how can they run on water? Well, first of all, they have large hind feet. And when they sprint, they use their big feet to stride very far so they don't sink. If they didn't do this, they would sink, of course. But sometimes they still manage to run on water. How is that possible? Well, they usually only attempt this if they need to. If they spot a predator, for instance, then they may decide that it is worth giving it a try. And apparently, if they manage to run across the water to the other side, they usually make it. In other words, it seems that running on water is more impressive than you might think. And the Jesus Christ lizard can do this at speeds of up to 12 kilometers per hour. That is about 1/8 of the speed of Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive. But unlike Mr. Bolt, the Jesus Christ lizard does not run on land, it runs on water. Wow. Here, you can see another lizard of the same family trying to do the same, but it does not make it. Sometimes they just can't get enough speed to pull it off. And when this happens, they immediately sink. Then, the speed needed to run on water depends on the body weight of the animal. The heavier it is, the more speed it needs. For instance, a green iguana weighs about 6 kilograms, and for it, a speed of about 35 kilometers per hour is required to run on water. Now, these iguanas can indeed reach such speeds, but they don't really like doing this. So this means that generally lighter animals need less speed to run on water. And this makes sense, doesn't it? The less heavy you are, the easier it is to accelerate your body. But wait. There is another factor that plays an important role here, and that is surface tension. Many of us played with paper boats when we were kids. You could easily make one by folding a rectangular piece of paper along a line in the middle and then pushing one corner so it turns into a boat shape. These boats can indeed float on water, but only if the paper is relatively clean and preferably made from a water-repellent material. This is because water has a rather high surface tension. So it forms a sort of a membrane on the surface of the water. If this membrane is not broken, it can support small objects on the water surface. However, if the object is too heavy, then the boat will sink. A good example of this is this water strider. It is an insect that can move on the surface of the water because it is as light as a feather. Only about 1 milligram, yet it can hold 10 times its own weight on a piece of thread. That is truly impressive. And they have long legs that help them move on the water surface. These legs are covered with tiny hairs, which are extremely useful. Not only do they help the water striders to hold onto the water surface, but these hairs are also water repellent. This is because they are coated with a waxy substance called hydrocarbons. These hydrocarbons don't mix with water. Instead, they form an almost impenetrable barrier against water. This protects the delicate legs of the water striders from getting wet. And look, here's a close-up of a water strider moving on the surface of the water. We can see how its feet are barely touching the water, yet it can still move around nicely. So water striders are just as good at running on water as the Jesus lizard. It's just that they do this much more often. Birds also belong to the group of animals that can run on water. Some of them, such as jacanas, also called lily trotters, can even walk on water lilies. Lily pads, I mean. These birds have extra long toes, and thanks to these toes, they can distribute their weight over a larger area. This helps them not to break the surface tension of the water. So they can walk on the pads of the water lilies without breaking them. These birds usually live in shallow waters, and they often feed on aquatic life. They use their long toes to help them wade in the water. And in case you wonder, yes, the toes of the jacana birds are webbed. This makes them excellent at walking on water. By the way, there are several species of jacana, and they are found in Africa, Asia, and southern Europe. Some other birds can also run on water, but only for a brief moment. This is because when they take off, their feet cannot quite keep up with their wings. So they spend a few moments running on water before they lift off. Frogs can also run on water. Some small species can hop or run short distances across the water. This is once again because they are extremely light. For instance, the poison dart frog is only about 1 centimeter long and weighs only about 2 grams. These frogs live in the tropical forests of Central and South America. They have bright colors, and many of them are poisonous. In particular, the golden poison frog is among the most poisonous creatures on Earth. So frogs, just like birds, need to be careful when they try to run on water. If they accelerate too quickly, they might not make it. But those who manage to run on the surface of the water usually do make it. Now, among all these animals that can run on water, the Jesus lizard is perhaps the most famous one. And there are many videos of them running on water. Here you can see another one trying it out. And this time it manages to run several meters on water to escape a predator. And here's another video of a Jesus lizard running across a stream. It doesn't seem to put much effort into it. And this is because these animals are naturally good at this. Running on water is a piece of cake for them. Of course, there are many other animals that can move on the surface of the water, such as spiders or water striders. However, their movement is better described as walking rather than running. So these guys really run on water. They simply don't sink. And since they are good at this, we humans haven't been able to catch them running on water. Of course, we have seen footprints left by them on water, but catching them in action remains a challenge. However, there is hope. Just imagine a drone hovering above the surface of the water and a Jesus lizard running away from it. If we follow it closely, we might be able to see it running on water. What a sight that would be. Thanks for watching and for your generous support. And I'll see you next time.